Welcome back to WaterparkRanger's Let's Play Pikmin 2. In the last episode, we entered the Hole of Heroes, and in this episode, we are going to, I guess, get further in it. It'd be silly to say we're going to get to the halfway point, because that sounds like a little bit too presumptuous. Anyway, on this floor, a pileated Snagret appears in a sandy sinkhole. Obviously, you don't want to fight it in the sinkhole, because it means that your Pikmin are super susceptible to the enemy's attacks. There's also a burrowing Snagret on this floor. Coincidentally, both of these enemies spawned right next to each other, so that's really horrible. Of course, I would advise luring one away from the other, but because they're so close together, I'm just going to kill one and then move on to the next. Basically, the sinkhole can't kill your Pikmin. It just drags them into the middle, and in the middle, it's just annoying to get your Pikmin to move around. So, you need to make sure you're not fighting enemies from the middle of the sinkhole, because that means you're going to have horrible... You won't be able to maneuver away from their attacks, basically. But even though those enemies spawned right next to each other and attacked us, like, directly as soon as we entered the sublevel, that went amazingly well. Plus, check out how much money you get from this one treasure. It's insane. You actually get, I think... Yeah, 1,000 coins, 1,000 Pokos from a single treasure. The Lustrous element. Lustrous indeed. There's actually nothing else on this floor. But the sinkhole that's newly introduced, look, it doesn't kill your Pikmin, it just makes them sit in the middle of the floor. And that's all it does. So you don't really need to worry about sand being a real hazard. It's only on one more floor. In the final dungeon, the sinkhole, this exact sublevel layout appears again in the final dungeon, which just loves to reuse old things. Anyway, further down, as you can see, we actually had to fight the pileated and burrowing Snagret on this floor. This is going to be the start of a very long boss rush. But before that, we actually have a very nice rest floor with 2 Mamutas, a ton of honey wisps, and spectralids, those little butterflies, as well as 2 iridescent glint beetles. I would go as far as to say that this is the best rest floor in the game. They give you, like, all the best things for giving you flowered Pikmin. The only thing that you can't really get here is bitter sprays, but even then, if you're lucky, you can get bitter sprays from the honey wisp eggs. And actually, I do believe that, for the unmarked spectralids, you know how occasionally... Although there's a lot of, mostly they're like yellow, there are a couple of red and purple ones in there. Well, if you manage to knock the red and purple ones out of the sky, there is a slight possibility that it might give you, red ones might give you spicy spray, or purple ones might give you bitter spray. There's also, of course, a chance that the yellow ones will give you nectar. But I'm not sure if you've seen that happen yet, so I'm just letting you know that's pretty rare. And there's really nothing else for us to do on that sublevel, so deeper we go! The deeper you go, the more secrets are revealed. And actually, this sublevel is completely unique. Actually, never mind, that's not true. The final dungeon reuses this one too. This reminds me of the time when back in the beginning of the Wind Waker LP I was saying, Wind Waker is unique compared to other Zelda games for these reasons, and then I'm like, wait, no, the other games did this too. Anyway, this floor, this is the first time we've encountered it. One thing that is completely unique about it is the music. The music on this sublevel, you can probably hardly hear it because the music in Pikmin 2 is already pretty quiet as it is, and the commentary and the way I record makes it a little bit more quiet. Also, that was a really cheap go right there by the Wollywog. The music here is actually completely unique. I think you can actually find it on YouTube. Maybe I'll just link it in the description. I know people have managed to post the Pikmin 2 soundtrack onto YouTube. And I actually was able to download it from one of the links on YouTube, so I actually do have the soundtrack for this game. Most of it's just ambient, though, but Pikmin is pretty much known for just ambient sounds. It really doesn't have that many memorable tracks, I have to say. But then again, you know, I think it has... The music's good, it's just not memorable, per se. Like, I'm not going to be able to remember the tune that plays on, like, Sublevel 4 of the Hole of Beasts, or whatever. I kind of just threw that one out there. I mean, I actually have a slight idea of what that sounds like, but it's not like I have a very good idea. But that's only because I've played this game about 1,000,000 times. Anyway, as you can see, this floor's theme is, water enemies and water. So it's a good idea to bring a lot of blue Pikmin here. The problem with bringing an evenly mixed up Pikmin squad into this floor is that it takes 20 Pikmin to carry that, and typically you're going to lose a lot of blues because enemies seem to home in on blues a lot more frequently for some reason. I don't know why. So let's just kill these water temples, and wow, they're actually not doing a very good job of killing our Pikmin. I'm surprised. And we don't have to kill that last Wollywog, I don't think. I'll just lure it out of the way, kind of like I did way back when in the Distant Spring for the first game. I really love the Distant Spring. It's pretty much one of my favorite Enemies. Favorite areas in any game ever. Like, favorite levels. Because I know that most of the time, areas in games are referred to as levels. It feels kind of strange. That used to be, like, that's kind of the thing of the past. Like, back in the old, like, Zelda 1 or whatever, they called those, like, levels. Or, like, in Chameleon Twist or Bugdom. Games that you've probably never heard of. And maybe one day I might make Let's Plays of. They called those levels. But levels are really a thing of the past. Like, there are so many things that used to be such, staples of gaming that are kind of disappearing more and more, especially in modern gaming. I even remember reading an article somewhere that was saying, like, do we need boss battles in games anymore? And I feel like I really like boss battles in games. They're just, like... Some people might say, oh, they feel tacked on or forceful, and like, oh, it's just the same thing, you just have to hit the eye, or there's a head and two giant hands. I don't know, though. I appreciate having something to fight, like, after a certain point. I guess I'd have to explain a little bit better why. But a game just doesn't feel right. It feels anticlimactic without, like, the boss waiting for you in the last room or something. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like it's a given, and... it's too hard to explain. It's not, like, sentimental either. It's just, like, it's something that kind of just has to be there. And it just doesn't feel right without it. Like, how would you feel if you just got to, like, to the end of a dungeon in Zelda and there wasn't a boss? It feels kind of strange, because I remember in Spirit Tracks, when I did that at the end of the final dungeon, the Tower of Spirits, I felt kind of let down. I'm like, I came all this way and there was really no more challenge. Anyway, besides the cannon beetles on this floor that you probably want to kill first, the only thing you have to worry about is the ranging Bloyster that returns, and as you can see, I am now exploiting that cheap strategy that I told you about earlier, where if you just switch your captains carefully, you don't even have to split your group up. You can just stay in one unit and just attack the weak point. It doesn't even move. You just have to press Y every now and again, and then he won't be able to even move. That's how simple this boss is. I'm not even kidding. And you can obviously tell I'm not kidding, because you just saw it happen right there. Anyway, that decorated cannon beetle is coincidentally the last of its kind of the entire game. They do not appear in the final dungeon. This is the last point in the game where you fight them, here on this floor alongside the ranging Bloyster. I guess the theme of the dungeon, the theme of this floor was just rocks that fall from the sky, rocks that roll at you, and I guess they kind of felt like throwing the raging Bloyster at you to fit with a boss. The theme of fighting every boss again in this dungeon. You don't fight every boss again in this dungeon, though. You don't fight the Water Wraith again, and you don't fight the giant bread bug again. And also, you don't fight the segmented Cropster again, because that would kind of just be stupid when you think about it. Let's run away from that rock Indiana Jones style. That is such a good movie. Whoa, is it seriously? I was worried that it was going to roll around the hole and kill us. Those rolling rocks that home into on you never cease to annoy me. Or scare me, for that matter. But they are useful for killing other enemies. What some people like to do with that floor is keep their party back, like, by the way down. Lure, and have one captain go out and just have the cannon beetles kill each other using the rolling rocks that home in on you. It's a good plan. It just feels kind of cheap to me. Anyway, at least we get some more Bullmen on this floor, which is pretty cool. The Bullmen are awesome. You already know that they can resist all elements and can't leave the dungeon. This is also the last Bullmen in the game that we get to fight. So that's the reasons why the Hole of Heroes is a melting pot of life, is you get, like, almost every boss appears here and almost every enemy. Almost, because they don't put in, wow, what don't they include? There are no Ravenous Whisker Pillars, because obviously there's no reason for those to ever appear underground. And I've decided to just keep one of the, never mind. Because I want to have more Pikmin to bring with me, but I want to keep one of the Bullmen also, just because they're so cute. And this is going to be the last chance we ever get to have one in our party. So we're going to change one, and even though it's a stupid thing to do, we're going to keep the last one in our party. And the Doodlebugs, I just want to flip it over so we can get some nectar from it. First flip gives us 3, and if we had found Bitter Spray, the next few flips would have given us 1 Bitter Spray dose each, which would have been pretty sweet. It feels kind of bad sometimes playing this without the sprays, but it's been a fun run too, actually. The challenge is quite nice. So you can escape from the dungeon now if you want, if you've been taking a lot of hits, but for us, we're going to continue. We actually did make it halfway, so we're going to continue with the second half of the dungeon next episode. See you then.